Hello and welcome back. I'm Suzanne and this is Living Your Design, a mini-series on the basics of reading your human design chart. In this episode, we're breaking down your centers as to whether they're defined or undefined and what each one tells you about how your energy moves through the world. Now, one of the first things you'll notice about your body graph, that's your human design chart, is the 9 shapes, those triangles and squares that make up your chart. Some of the shapes are colored in and some are white. The actual colors don't matter. It's become very common for different practitioners to use their own brand colors in their charts. So for example, if you run your chart on my website, you'll see dark blue and teal shapes in addition to the white uncolored ones. If you run your chart elsewhere, you might see some of the centers are shaded darker and some are shaded lighter in addition to the white ones. For the purpose of today's discussion, if they're colored in at all, any color, we will consider them defined, and if they're white, they're undefined. The dark and light shading, or the 2 different colors, goes deeper than we're going to explore right now. For this episode, we're only going to focus on whether a center is defined or undefined and how we might use that energy. Now, just to be clear, you might not have any white shapes on your chart. They might all be colored in. Or you might not have any colored in shapes on your chart. They might all be white. Both of these are possibilities. Just about any combination of defined and undefined centers is possible. We're all different. So, are you with me so far? Colored in shapes are defined, white shapes are undefined. So, if you have a center that is defined, you have consistent access to energy in that center. Okay, that energy is readily available to you. Now, others around you will also experience this energy consistently from you. Although in either case, there could still be energy blocks. Okay, this doesn't mean that you'll use that energy consistently. You could have energy blockages or conditioning, but it is more readily available to you. Okay, if you have a center that is undefined, the energy for that center may be inconsistent or adaptable. A better way of saying it is that you will be more receptive to energy from outside sources in that center. You may be receptive to feeling other people's energy in your undefined center. Okay, your undefined centers are like a playground where you get to learn and experience different ways of feeling that energy. So what does all that actually mean? Here's an example. The root center, that's the very bottom square on your chart, is all about action and getting things done. It's also about following the pulse energy and following right timing, okay? Someone with a defined root center will feel when it's the right time to act and then act on that energy. They can use that energy consistently and get shit done. When they try to fight against it and push too hard to make things happen when the timing isn't right, they can get burned out. On the flip side, for someone like me, I have an undefined root center. If I don't pay attention to my own energy flow, I might feel all that go, go, go energy around me and take it on as my own. Absorbing all of that into my open root center and feel that pressure to, amp up on that same energetic pace, even if it's not correct for me. And that can cause stress and burnout when I try to do too much, when I try to keep up with someone else's pace instead of my own. So does that make sense? Here's another example. The will center is that little tiny sideways triangle on the upper right side of your chart. And it's about knowing your value and trusting the universe to provide the resources we need for survival. Okay, it's about self-worth. With a defined will center, my energy keeps me driven towards what matters to me, what I value. It can also help me and others around me persevere through tough times. It's a driving force for sure. It has a pulse also, just like the root center, and staying in tune with that pulse is important. Knowing when it's time to rest is important. Persevering and pushing through the tough times is admirable, but at what cost? If we don't allow the time to rest and replenish, we can burn out. On the other side of this, someone with an undefined will center will need to respect her boundaries and remember that her value is not defined by others. She doesn't have to prove herself to others, especially those of us with a defined will, by trying to meet expectations or match their output. Her strength is in the freedom to decide what is of value to her and to make her choices based on her own values. So, by simply understanding how our defined and undefined energy centers work, we can navigate life with conscious choices rather than with conditioning or expectations and old patterns. Okay? Working through these old patterns and expectations and roles that we've played is called deconditioning in the human design world. You'll hear that word a lot if you start to explore through human design. Deconditioning, it's a big thing. So as you see, defined or undefined, neither one is good or bad. It just is. Each has its strengths and challenges. And as we learn more about working with these energies, and especially as they fit in with the other pieces of our design, like our type and our profile, we become better and better at making clearer decisions and living with less resistance. We stop trying to be like everyone else and start living in tune with our own design, which makes life so much easier to navigate. So if you're working with the Living My Design journal, notice what's landing for you right now. On the centers page, take some time and fill in your defined centers. Even though they're already on your chart that's on page 2 of your journal, filling them in yourself will help you become more familiar with them. Then jot any notes you discover about your defined and undefined centers on the centers notes page. You can print out extra pages if you need. I've posted links to a few of my previous podcast episodes on the centers for you to explore. If you don't have the Living My Design journal yet, it's there for you whenever you want a dedicated space to explore your design. The link is in the show notes and it's on my website with other reports. The next segment, where we'll talk about all those little numbers inside your centers, those are your gates. And that's where things start to get really interesting. So stay tuned.